Good evening, and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Joining me tonight is the ninja, Dr. Jason Pittman. And tonight we're going to talk about self-doubt and how that might be preventing yourself and your organization from reaching its fullest potential. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Ford, and this is EchelonOrchid.
Guess who's back?
The ninja. How the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm friggin' amazing. Are you kidding me?
Know, dude.
Are you kidding me? Look at this. Look at this. Woo! You can't get any better than that. Oh man, how's your week going?
It's a long one, man. You know, I did 2 service obligations on the weekend, so I'm like on day 11 in a row. And I don't mind. I have a great time doing that stuff. The thing that gets a little hard is I'm basically doing multiple stand-up shows a day if you look at it, and your voice starts to get tired. Like you can hear my voice being a little throaty, but dude, you ain't stopping me. I'm on a runaway train now, you know what I mean?
The only thing stopping you is yourself, my friend.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
Which
it really is.
Well, it absolutely is. And that gets into the topic of the day with self-doubt, right? It creeps up. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I have had many occasions where I have these like 2 voices. The one saying, if you only had this certification, if you only had this degree, if you only had this, you could do that. And the other voice basically going, which, if I'm being honest with myself, maybe I'm batting 500 is the which voice I've listened to. The voice going, what the hell are you talking about? Look at all the other stuff you've done. Of course you can do this. Right. But sometimes I listen to that voice of, man, can I really do that? Can I really do a doctorate? Can I really do an MBA? Can I really take that chief position for the first time? Can I, at 20, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, can I really be the guy to engineer XM radio? Like there's all these people in there that are so much more experienced than me. Can I really do it? There were a lot of things that I talked myself out of. I'm like, oh no, I can't do it. I'm not an expert in that. What are you talking about? Do you ever have those kind of feelings?
Oh man, yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if the feeling goes away as much as it is that the ability to silence it gets faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess the ability to silence. I mean, I think I've started in some ways looking at mentoring, and then I try to envision my future self mentoring my present self, and what might he say in this situation. And so almost the opposite of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week, of shadow work, but trying to project as to who might this wise Dan be in the future, and what might he say to me today to get me to pull myself up from my bootstraps and embrace the suck and make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think self-doubt is an inner to outer expression of it, maybe in part fear in some situations, and in other ways, almost like a self governance, right? Like, oh, should I really do this? Am I capable of doing this? And I think that's healthy. I think it would be pathological to not have that at all. Just as much as it's pathological when it becomes paralyzing and you never move forward. I'll tell you one of the things that really helped me improve in the last 2 years, because I had
was my counsel. was my guidance.
Maybe. I had a lot of doubt leaving Capitol that let's say that whether or not I was legitimate, right? Because it's really easy to win a race against a bunch of 10-year-olds. It really is. It's trivial.
So were you saying that like Capitol was like Fallon Fox?
No, I did not say that. Just so we're clear. No. But I had no.
I re-listened to that Joe Rogan podcast today, and man, is he! I agree with him, but brutal, like brutally honest. With that.
Yeah. But I mean, you were there, dude. So for people that don't know, I mean, dude, there was no other full-time faculty. I literally had no peers. I had colleagues in other departments, but in my department, I had nobody else. It was just me because of how small the school was, and so. At best, I was competing against people that weren't able to even run the same race to some degree. And until Garima showed up, I had nobody to actually compete against. And I solved that problem by collaborating with her.
I told her. I told her
up front, this is how this is going to work.
I said, you're going to make it to be where he's going to be the 5-time researcher of the year.
And so this is going to be poignant. Give me 1 second, man, because I'm going to pick these up and I'm going to show our audience what we're talking about. 1 second, because I got them all right here on a bookshelf. In case anybody thinks I'm bullshitting, I count 5.
I mean, you could have had them made up.
Well, I could have, but if I did that, I would actually put the correct title on there.
Oh, does that have which one does it have?
Some of them list me as PhD, which I don't have a PhD. I have a DSC.
Oh, hold on. You have a what?
A DSC, not a.
Oh, you finally.
No, I still listed as side D because that's the proper way to list it.
Oh. Yeah, for those who don't know, this has been for me a comical battle because the university that we achieved. Yep. Unbelievable. The university where Jason and I met and achieved our doctorate of information assurance, now known as cybersecurity, which is still a subsection of computer science. They always said it was D period SC period. And I'm like, hey, whatever. I don't really care. That's the way the university wants it. Whatever. If you go to research it, out there, the D, SC, and SCD are somewhat, depending on which school of thought, interchangeable. But regardless, they list that as being the highest of the academic terminal degrees.
Well, yeah, in the European system that it comes from, like for instance in Germany, you have to have a PhD in order to earn a DSC or a PsyD, however you want to list it. But anyway, man. So in case anybody thinks we've been bullshitting, that was 5 of them, and that's all 5 of them, and they sit on that bookshelf because I don't care. I did it because I could, and so my point is even with all that, leaving Capitol,
Rolex wearing, private jet
alligator
flying.
shoe wearing.
Woo! Son of a gun! They never understood any time we did that. People were like, what are you all talking about? And I'm like, did you not have a childhood?
Uncultured swine. And so I had a lot of doubt leaving Capitol as to whether or not I was legitimate, because at that point, I had done a stint at Cal Poly, but I count that because it was a super valuable experience and I succeed. I mean, let's not forget at Cal Poly, I won Faculty of the Year as an adjunct. And after that, they banned it. So, right, I knew I could do it, but I didn't do it like in a really formal way in terms of going to another school. And so, I had a lot of self-doubt to the point where I considered not going into academia when I left Capitol. And I got over it. And one of the ways I got over it is I figured out, what's it going to hurt to try for 2 weeks, a month? Every time I think about doing something, I'll just do the exact opposite. If I think I'm not going to wear a tie, I'm wearing a tie. Right? You see what I'm saying? And I don't have it on now because I just got changed because, well, there's a storm here. And yeah, anyway. And that's how I started to kind of figure out, well, wait, that self-doubt's valuable because it's good, I think, at least for me in my work, to step back and question things. It keeps that ego in check in some ways, but not to a point where it stops me from doing things to move forward.
So, I did my undergrad at Strayer. Okay. And I basically coasted through that. Went over to GW. It was pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different. Went over to Capital. Equally as hard from a master's level. I mean, there were some good professors at that time at Capital. I mean, some true legit killers in the industry at the time, right? And for those who don't know, I mean, Capital was predominantly people that worked in the federal government, even more predominantly either Fort Meade, which is NSA, or they were straight up DOD in some capacity. They were doing work for the DOD in cybersecurity most of the time. Mm-hmm. And so there was, the professors were, they were legit professors, right? And then I go into my doctorate. That was pretty intimidating at the time for me. I'm like, can I really do this? I almost dropped out. I mean, I don't know if you remember that, but I almost dropped out. It was, Audrey that wind up, Dr. Andrews was one of the professors. And part of it was like, I was going through a lot of personal shit. And, she talked to me and she talked me out of it. She's like, no, just do this. And, at the time, Helen was also going through some personal stuff. I think her father had died, couldn't get a hold of her. I was having issues. And eventually it all worked out and bam, I made it through there. But a lot of that was my self-doubt going, can I really do this? Like, come on. Then, there was always those pieces from a professional aspect. Fixmo wasn't, I didn't really feel I didn't have any real self-doubt at Fixmo. Mm-hmm. But it definitely creeped up at Silent Circle.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's the killers of the killers, right? We're talking Phil Zimmerman, John Callis, Mike Kershaw, people who have legit name because, prior to Fixmo, I mean, all my stuff was, in the government, not, I wasn't out there doing stuff for show. Like there was, wasn't out there like some of these people, and not that they couldn't have done that same thing. And in some cases they definitely did, but, it was a big difference, and I'm like, wait a minute, like I can do this. Like, this is literally what I know. I know if there's at that particular time, if there was something that I knew, it was mobile devices.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, fast forward to my MBA. Now I'm like,
that was a big step up, huh?
Dude, I mean, I don't know if I've told you this or not, but so I applied at Kellogg, which is Northwestern, Ross, which is Michigan, Sloan, which is MIT, Fuqua, I don't know if I'm saying it right, which is Duke, and Booth, which is University of Chicago. The first one that replied back was Northwestern Kellogg, Rejection. I'm like, what the? Like, I was angry. I really was. I was angry. I'm like, and maybe I was angry because of the way the interview went. The person that interviewed me, I did not feel was very fair. I mean, I could tell that. Mm-hmm. Then got accepted to Michigan, Ross,
Mm-hmm.
then Booth, then Sloan, then Fuqua or Fuku, or I don't know how you pronounce it, Duke. It's, but like when actually I take that back. Ross, I got accepted. I got waitlisted at Ross. Then it went Booth, Fuqua, and then a couple of weeks after that, Sloan came back and said, you're in. But I chose Ross. For many reasons, but for the main reason was, my manager at the time, Gopi, as we were looking through everything, and it was, hey, if you want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, well, let's take a look at where the current CEOs of Fortune 500 companies went. Michigan Ross was number one. What about the next C levels? Michigan Ross was number one. So Gopi asked me, he's like, well, why do you want to go to Sloan then? Like, if you want to be a CEO, like, then why aren't you going where all of them are going? And yes, there was absolutely some, it was a good amount of CEOs that went to Sloan. Sure. But Michigan was a much higher percentage of the ones that I was applying at. But I remember going to the invite, like, we'll say, not really a party, but like before you really apply, I went to Sloan's, because I mean that's where I wanted to go. Like, the geek in me is like, I want to go there. And then on top of that, Alan Mulally went there, and Alan Mulally is someone that I highly respect when it comes to what he's done in industry, and he went to Sloan. I mean, he is credited with saving two American icons, a Boeing and Ford Motor Company. So I'm like, I mean, that's what I want to be. And he went to Sloan. I'm a computer geek, and I want to go to Sloan. And dude, I'm there, and I'm looking around, and I'm talking to all these people, and I'm like, fuck. Like, these people are like, they're legit. They're like here, they're there. Director of the program comes up, starts talking about basically self-doubt, having imposter syndrome, and you may be feeling these things, but you're here amongst very few people that have shown interest, and you had to have an invite to be here. I went, well, damn. So I had to be invited. Like, it's not like it was not something you applied to do.
Right.
You had to be invited to this, session. And then I'm officially applied everywhere. And I, of course, I wind up going to Michigan, which I feel was still the overall best professional decision I have made. And almost the entire time through that, I doubted every single class and lesson as to whether or not I belonged there.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's sometimes I was just telling Mrs. Pittman this last night that, and I'd never told her this story before, but before I got into tech, before I started working at the first startup I worked at, I had applied for a full-time position. I don't even know what you call it, man, what the job was, but it was for Borders Books, working in a bookstore, right? English background. My mother was a librarian.
I think it's called a barista.
No, man, it wasn't. That I know. I don't know what they call the people. Of course, Borders doesn't exist anymore, but what you call the people that go around shelving books and ordering books and all that shit, right?
Stock boy.
Sure. That's it. I don't know, man.
No idea.
They turned me down after the second interview, dude.
Overqualified.
I don't know. Don't know. But I know I'm better than that. You know what I mean? And so even in those moments where, and see, this is a little different. And I think this is, again, perhaps a difference in the substrate of our careers, right? It's just the nature of it's different. I'm no longer at a point where I doubt my ability to deliver on something. What I doubt from time to time is my ability to express something in a classroom, let's say, that is relevant. You know what I mean? And so there's this need to not only stay current in terms of what's going on in computer science and in technology and cyber, because those are the fields, right? Um, but then that has to be synthesized and packaged up in a way where it's communicated so that it's consumable by an audience. That's the part that sometimes I doubt. And so, look, man, you've spoken a lot. I don't know how you are, but every time I get up for the first class of a new semester, no matter what it is, how many times I've taught it, dude, I still get really nervous, like really nervous, to the point where I'm like, dude, maybe I'm done. Like, maybe this is it. Maybe now they're finally going to discover that I actually don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm never sure if I really do or not. That's that doubt, right? That's where that comes in.
Yeah.
And then, I get an hour into it and I'm like, okay, fuck, I got it.
Yes, I feel like that every single time I talk. Like who am I? So, in a way of like, why should any of these people listen to what I got to say?
Yeah, right.
And so,
why am I up here?
Yeah, I mean, and then I mean, and that gets into, I'll segue into that next point next, but that's why I always start my presentations with something that's kind of real about myself that I can just flow into as to why I'm here. And because I'll tell you, one of the worst things is how people introduce you. Okay. I find it insulting when they just get up there and read your bio. The bio is one thing. It's one piece of information. You should come and talk to who you're going to be opening for, who you're going to be saying, hey, here, I'm introducing this person. It's got to be more than what's on that piece of paper. The bio is what gets people in the audience that, all right, this person might be qualified, but you got to bring something more. And I really find it insulting when those people don't provide that pizzazz to this. Like, hey, I was talking to the ninja backstage, and what's quite interesting is not only has he accomplished these things in multiple different business segments, he has moved to academia, but he's also a chicken farmer. Right. And that chicken farming, it's not so much that part, but he took computer science and he has automated the aspect of the chicken coops going, for when the sun rises, utilizing Arduinos. He has made it where it has a light sensor on there. And so when it senses the light, the doors open. And then as the sun goes down, it senses the light and the doors start to close. So the chickens will automatically learn to go out and in because they're free range. That's taking technology and applying today. And so, with further ado, Dr. Ninja Pittman, bam, like, understanding those pieces as to who you're introducing.
Yeah, it makes it more intimate.
Absolutely it does. Right. And where I was going with the aspect of when we start talking about that introduction, when we start talking about that self-doubt, we need to remember in many ways that the reason why we're here is because of the things that we've done. And there's two things. There's two very important things I think people should really understand. It doesn't matter if you're the expert, because the expert needs subjects that have personalized experiences with what they are researching to make that a reality. And those stories are very valuable in the expert's mind in order to be able to further whatever it is, whatever research it is. And so you don't have to be that expert. Your story can still be important to the overall, body of research that expert is doing. And it's extremely important. Like if there's not, a subject could be a person. It could be something to observe, but the expert or the almost expert. I kind of I'll use expert in a loosely term from an academic standpoint. Let's say expert, someone that's, already a terminal degree and continues the research, or they're looking to get the terminal degree or something along those lines, but they have to observe something. A lot of times it's people. And that observation is very, very important to coming to whatever is going to be next, or a conclusion.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why you can kind of have that idea that there's no such thing as a superhero without a villain, right? Every hero needs a nemesis, whatever that is, and however you contextualize it. And so, I don't know how you deal with it, man, but I'll tell you, one of the ways I know that I'm at the right place is that I'm able to stay focused and busy enough that it staves off those demons, right? And so this is why, I know at least you have some frame of reference for Warhammer 40,000. And one of the things I love about Warhammer 40,000 is in the lore, there's an extensive stoic philosophy. And so one of the statements that you can encounter from time to time, if you read the books enough, is that blessed is the mind too small for doubt. Right? Well, I don't know that I have a small mind. I don't know that I even think about it that way, but I know how to create the effect of having a small mind, and that's by staying focused and busy. And then there's just no room for doubt.
I think in many ways, doubt is still healthy.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier about how doubt helps you to ensure that you've asked as many questions about whatever it is you're going to do as you possibly can. Because here's the thing, like when we break it down to the psychological aspects, when we're being introspective about what this is, self-doubt's also a protection mechanism. Mm-hmm. That protection mechanism is what allows our species to survive. Hey, you might not want to go up against that Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I'm not sure there were people around then, but okay.
Saber-toothed tiger, whatever you want to use.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that. Sure.
All right. You might. That saber-toothed tiger's got some big fangs, dude, and they've got some claws. You've only got a little spear. You might want to go get a bunch of other spears to come along with you, right? Yeah, not too wise to go up against that saber-toothed tiger. Or in using one of your mottos, I don't know that I want to go swimming in the ocean when there's sharks.
Yeah, man. Right. There's a big reason why I'll never get eaten by a shark, because I ain't swimming in the ocean, dude.
What if you were in a cage?
Dude, when long time ago, we were dating. We weren't even engaged yet. I took Mrs. Pittman to Hawaii, and you could charter a boat that would take you out. And man, I thought about it. I would do it. In a cage, I'd probably do it. See, because now, like I was saying earlier, I'm really... The mentality of whatever I think I'm going to do the opposite has served me exceedingly well over the last couple of years. And that's really a way for me to govern my behavior. And so whenever I think about like saying something out loud, I just don't say it. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, why not?
How about skydiving?
See, I think about that one too. If it was the right circumstances, I'd probably do it. If it was the right circumstances.
But you probably need to skydive before the right circumstances where you have to do it, right?
Well,
the time in which you have to do it should not be the first time you skydive.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd want to encounter that, but I don't know, man. I don't know how I'd be in a situation unless I chose to be, in which I had access to a parachute and the plane was going down.
You might have to be you might have to be chartering planes to like Albuquerque or something. I don't know.
Albuquerque. What about fucking Bugs Bunny?
Well, you're not the Tasmanian devil.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not, man. But yeah, I totally agree with your premise, man. I think having doubt and recognizing that you're doubting yourself or others or the situation is very good to be in tune with. I think you have to learn for yourself what works to overcome it. Because you can't move forward if you're paralyzed. I mean, obviously, right?
Well, I mean, this gets back to the, what's the difference between the hero and the coward? And, because they both feel the same fear. One run towards it and the other one runs away from it. But there is an aspect of, it's, perhaps saying coward is too strong. That particular individual realized, I'm going to die. It was self-preservation. Right? I don't know that that's necessarily the wrong way to look at it or not. That's not my personality. There are plenty of those that, maybe they were the last of their line. Maybe that they were it. And, so many different reasons could be popping into their head. That's just not my way of doing things. I want to run towards it. And so, even though I feel like maybe I'm only batting 500 against myself, I might even be being too hard on what that scorecard really is, because I've never really chalked it up. I mean, I just happen to think, hey, do I really want to do this one more time?
Right.
And I think about it like, if I'm Floyd Mayweather, do I really want to put on those gloves again? I'm already perfect.
I mean, you're tempting the fates. Is what you're
doing. And at a certain point in time, and this is the biggest thing, Father Time is undefeated.
I was just thinking that exact same thing, man. That's absolutely true.
At what point in time? Now, the way I look at it, if I'm Floyd Mayweather, if I'm looking at Floyd Mayweather, rather, if he loses right now, I'm like, dude, well, you're like 40 something years old going up against some cat that's in their 20s. I mean, I don't see any shame in that. No different than, like, I don't know if you watched any of that exhibition with Mike Tyson. Was it when it was Roy Jones, right? It was Roy
Jones Jr.?
Yeah. Dude, I would not want to get hit by either one of those guys, but it definitely not Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of his podcasts? Dude, did you watch the one with him and Evander Holyfield?
No, I didn't. I saw that they did it, but I didn't watch it.
It is it's really good. Like, for the because I don't think this stuff is scripted. Mike Tyson's a lot smarter than what I ever like. I like to say, like, with his different things, hey, everyone's got a plan until someone gets punched in the mouth. His podcast is really insightful. I really dig a lot, and he knows a lot about a lot of things.
He definitely knows a ton about boxing.
Oh my gosh.
The history of it. And what I find compelling about him as a character, a character within this gestalt that we exist in, right? Because he became popular when we were kids, and he's been popular the whole time for one reason or another, right? What I find really interesting about his story is you definitely would not guess that he's as articulate as he can be at certain moments. But I don't know what happened necessarily that drove it, but he's incredibly introspective, and he does a good job at articulating those ideas, at least in my estimation. It's actually somebody that maybe more than pretty much any other public figure, I have an enormous amount of empathy for. You know what I mean? It's not like the guy has had an easy life by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know, man. Maybe more than anybody, that might be who I would want to sit down and have a beer with, so to speak, and just talk. Right.
Well, let's be honest. The beer is not what you're going to sit down and have with them.
I don't live in California anymore, for the record.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as I know, California hasn't restricted travel from North Carolina just yet.
No, not that I'm aware of. Well, who knows, dude? That don't even get me started with that state, dude.
This is what I find hilarious right now with California. All these Californians looking, oh, Texas, what's going on with your power? Dude, here's like a once in a generation like event going on in Texas that maybe it happens once a year. It happens every year for multiple days inside of California where they have power issues.
Yeah.
Multiple days a year, every year, because it's hot. Especially in Southern California.
Well, listen, this is another instance of where conspiracy theorists do a disservice to true conspiracies. Let's not forget that Southern California Edison was fined by the federal government for price fixing on their power rates, right? I mean, they deliberately caused outages so that they could charge higher prices. That's not bullshit. They actually got fined for it, but the federal government actually fined somebody. Unlike the SEC and Wall Street bets. What a load of bullshit, dude.
TK and I talked a little bit about this on Sunday Coffee. I think while it's absolutely horrendous that they were able to do that, this is kind of goes to show you that you deal with these little rinky-dink startups that are in any particular vertical. You better understand what you're getting into, because they're looking to protect their investors. Okay, it's not you. This is what capitalism is about. You go into business for one purpose. If you're a for-profit company, which an overwhelming majority of the companies are for-profit, which is for shareholder value. You're not a shareholder, you're a customer. And who are they protecting? Their shareholders. The license agreement that all of those people signed up for said, I agree that Robinhood can reject any of my trades at any time for any reason or no reason. And you all clicked yes. That's why I think all those class action lawsuits will go.
Oh yeah, and they should, for that reason. That doesn't make the situation moral, as it were. But look, man,
But is it ethical?
Well, hey, look, I'll tell you what it is it's a rigged con game, and you're not in control. You're the sucker in the room. And
yeah.
If you weren't paying attention what they did to my boy Martin Shkreli, I don't know what you're doing.
This is why you don't use companies like that. You go use legit companies that have the bankroll to be able to ensure that you can do that. Like, you've got to be able to ride that wave, and Robinhood couldn't make the call.
I use TD Ameritrade. I don't have any problems. And I'm still holding.
Me either.
I still got these diamond hands.
So I've done quite well. And thankfully, I mean, from Michigan Ross, the stuff that they taught me on how to be able to evaluate those financial statements to determine what companies may be underperforming versus overperforming.
Yeah.
This is where I'm, I definitely get into that way much so in that self-doubt. More so because I'm like, that risk is too high. Like, I'm only looking to play so much that if I lose it, I can be like, okay, well,
you're right.
That's like a bad weekend in Vegas.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I haven't had one of those, but I almost did. I'd fix mine.
I've had some nights, but I don't know that I've had a bad night in Vegas.
I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm talking about gambling and losing money.
Oh, I was talking about something completely different.
Yeah, I had to go on like a binge. I had to all right, start caffeining it up, stop drinking alcohol, bunch of club soda and lime, and coffee. Technically, I don't know, they were espressos, and just all right. I'm going to stay here and play very rigid framework. I got to get my money back, and as soon as I did, I'm out. Or I got it to a point where it was reasonable.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't miss Vegas. That's not true. If I'm being honest, I do.
The conferences, no. But if you are someone that wants to be able to go somewhere and eat at a Michelin star restaurant every meal, at a different place every day, and see a bunch of different shows and things like that, I don't think there's another place in the world that you can go to that offers you that experience.
I would agree, man. The only two places I think I could imagine, and this is just based on observation, would be Dubai or Macau, and I don't think I'm going to either of those places for a weekend. You know what I mean?
I'm definitely not going to Dubai.
Well, I mean, don't forget where we lived in Southern California, man. It was a 3-hour drive.
Right.
Post 9/11, it was faster to drive than it was to fly because of the extra security checks.
Yeah.
Before 9/11, like when I was at that startup and we bought a company in Vegas because we wanted to play poker and expense the trips. It's a true story, dude. Now, don't forget, this was a real estate startup, and it was at the height before the bubble burst for housing. And so there was filthy money everywhere. Dude, we would just be like, anybody want to go play poker today? And we would leave at lunch. We'd drive to Burbank, and you just walk out on the tarmac and get on a little plane. And by the
Puddle
time
jump.
by the time you got up to altitude, you were already coming back down. It was I think a 40-minute flight from.
Dude, you didn't even get to 30,000 feet.
No. It had a lower ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, and like that's the only I didn't care so much about the conferences. I mean, that to me was more of a drain. And you know, and I'm not into going into all the clubs. What I enjoy, like, you know, there are a lot of shows you can go see, and you know, and the amount of whiskey bars that are there. You want to try to figure out what kind of whiskey you like. You can find everything there. You want to, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, you can pretty much do in Vegas.
Yeah. I will tell you though, man, I think I'm about ready to go back to DEF CON.
Really?
Well, and I'll tell you why, because here's the only reason why. I have students that never have experienced it, and I don't know outside of me being able to get a grant and sponsor them to go, they'll ever be able to go. And I think it's going to be, I think, I could be wrong, man, having a group of people to be around that are actually interested in actually consuming the information and you know, kind of analyzing it. I don't know, man. Maybe it's worth going maybe one more time. But then I don't know, man. I don't know. I think about it. It's just, again, coming from North Carolina, it's much more of a travel commitment now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's not that much more of a travel commitment. You got a direct flight if you go from either Raleigh or Charlotte, right?
Charlotte's not bad. Yeah. Raleigh's not close.
Yeah, so you know, if you do that, it's not horrible. You know,
it's not bad, but it's not as easy as getting in my car and driving.
No. I still, like, there is this piece in me. I want to fly out to California, drive a bike across that desert.
You know, I never really enjoyed the American Southwest. It's not my favorite terrain, but there was something always very peaceful about that drive. Once you got outside of San Bernardino, out to Barstow, you're in the desert. You get out past the base, and there's nothing, man. It's just tumbleweeds and sand. That's it, and it's just straight.
I just, you know, I look at it as a somewhat of an endurance challenge, doing that, you know, late July, early August.
It's gonna be hot
on a bike. I just want to see if I could do it.
I only ever drove my own car one time. Other than that, I was always rent a car. Here's why people don't understand: if you never drive through the desert, at high speeds, the sand will pit your windshield. And so, because I had, you know, what I thought were nice cars that I wanted to, I mean, dude, I'm not out there like buffing my car every weekend, but I ain't shitting it up either. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not either. That's what I pay someone else to do. But here's the thing. This is the in terms of riding, because I know about the aspect of the sand. You got to be fully geared up, which is going to be hot.
Yeah.
But so which do you want to deal with? The heat or literally having a bunch of sand that's going to literally be taking skin off of you?
Yeah, you're getting sandblasted, dude. Literally sandblasted. People do that to old buildings to clean off the scum.
And so I debate, do I want to go fully geared, or do I do like Under Armour full, a hot weather gear, so it's still long sleeve, do white. So I'm still protected. I mean, you got to wear the gloves regardless. But I wonder, I mean, I feel like I would definitely feel those pinpricks of the sand, but at least it wouldn't be tearing my skin up. Or do I just go with the actual, full on jacket, vented completely? It's not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. I've never ridden in the desert. But I've certainly ridden at 100 degrees, but not for 3 hours. And at least, when doing it like on the East Coast, it gets, I'm going to be driving, at a high speed for a while. On the East Coast, you're going to hit bumper to bumper traffic then in the DC area. At some point, you're going to have to get gas. You're going to have to do whatever. Stoplights. There's no stoplights. Like, I'll hit a stoplight once I get into Vegas. Then I'll take that gear off. It'll go into the bag. And, then I still will keep the helmet on. I'm not,
Yeah. No, man. Because I think
I'm way too pretty to get this face ruined by, someone running into me on a bike, because I'm not putting it down. Someone's going to have to run into me because they weren't paying attention.
I think that Nevada doesn't have a helmet law.
No, they don't. Right. They don't.
Yeah. And that always, it's like seatbelts, man. I actually met somebody. I don't know if I told you this. I met somebody not too long ago, and we were having this discussion about masks and COVID. And I made this analogy that, well, I mean, you wear your seatbelt, right? Wrong. The dude, dead serious, I believe him. It's like, no, dude, I don't wear my seatbelt.
You're in North Carolina. Of course there's probably plenty that don't. They probably don't think the NASCAR driver should wear a seatbelt either.
And he straight up said, he's like, oh, no, dude, I get like at least one ticket a month. And I'm like,
only one ticket?
Yeah, I mean, how many tickets are you going to get before you realize that it's just not like economically viable? But I guess that's just not I didn't voice that question. I just thought it in the back of my little reptile brain.
Like, well, okay, I mean, from a seatbelt, yeah, but I mean, I definitely allocate a certain amount of money every year for speeding tickets. Dude, I like
about speeding here, man.
I like to drive fast. I mean, I'm not. If I didn't want to drive fast, I would go and get, a Prius, right? Exactly, or a minivan, like I've got the car that I've got because I want to drive fast.
I'll tell you the one thing that sucks about the winter is
that I'm not able to drive fast in the snow. I can tell you that.
Well, fortunately, although we're
not safely.
Yeah. We're supposed to get a bad ice storm tonight, but it doesn't really snow too much here. But because I have partially nitrogen-filled high-performance sport tires on my 3 Series, when it gets cold, they lose pressure and my sensors go off. And when the sensors trip until it gets warm enough and I can reset the computer, I can't put it in sport mode. It locks you out. I get a little upset about it.
Well, I mean, at least it doesn't happen to you too often.
No.
Like, I'm not joking. It's literally snowed like every day for the last 2 weeks here in Indiana.
It has snowed twice the entire winter here, which is normal. And it snowed for about an hour, and an hour later it was all melted and gone.
I've got what feels like 6 feet of snow outside. And the person that we hire to ensure that our driveway and walkway are snowplowed, so backed up, couldn't get to us, so I had to do it myself. Thankfully, I've got a snowblower, but it's not that big of a snowblower, dude. It's 16 inches.
Yeah, right. That's still work, dude. And if it's wet, forget about it.
Well, but the snow is so high.
Yeah.
You have to. Now, I've got an electric snowblower, right? So I'm trying to one, I don't want to put that kind of gas. It's 2-stage, and I'm like, I don't want to figure that shit out. I can just plug this thing in like the weed whacker, so to speak, and it lasts long enough to be able to do the whole driveway a couple of times before I got to recharge that battery. Okay. But because it's so high, I've got to pick this thing up to go to like the top of it and then bring it back down and do it. I'm like, all right. If I got, I'm like, I have to call the people up and be like, I don't care that y'all are backed up. I pay you all money to have this stuff done within X amount of time. It needs to be done. I'm not doing it. These hands don't like manual labor. I get paid to think.
Listen, man, there's a lot of things I miss about winter as a season after being in California for 20 years. Seriously, right? Because you lose all sense of time because there's no season changes. It's just constant. And so coming back where there's climate change, I should be more careful with my words, where there's season change.
Yeah, season change.
Yeah, thank you. And thus there's climate differences. That's the right way to phrase that. It really makes me feel way more comfortable. There's times where I miss a true winter, but dude, as a kid, we didn't have snow blowers. No, that's not true. My dad did. It was me and my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't miss that, man.
No. So
that's not easy work.
Oh, hell no. Definitely not. I mean, it's a lot, right? So I being out here in the Midwest, I almost refuse to wear a winter coat. Now, I'll wear one when I gotta be outside shoveling snow, snowblowing snow, whatever you want to do. Because I'm physically got to be out there doing something and I'm trying to stay warm. Mm-hmm. But the aspect of going from the parking lot to my car in the Midwest, I'm not wearing some big bulky coat. One, I've got a remote start on my car. I know when I'm going to leave, it gets warmed up. I can check on my phone what the inside temperature is. When it hits 56 degrees, I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. I will go out now because I'll wear my sport coat or kind of like a pullover or just a long sleeve shirt like this with a little bit better of a vest. Because I don't know when someone might want to throw down or something like that. People are crazy. I got to be able to protect myself. And you can't do that. These big, bulky winter coats. Got to be prepared.
Well, yeah, man. Yeah.
That's how I think. I'm like, all right, well, what if, if I'm in a big, bulky coat, I'm not running away in the snow. I'm going to probably fall on the ice.
Fighting in a parka is awkward.
Yeah. It's not something that I'm looking at. I mean, hopefully I never have to do it, but I do think that way. If all of a sudden I have to defend myself, I can't do it in a big, bulky winter coat.
No. So then what are you going to do? Get out and square up and take your coat off and get punched in the mouth while you're taking your coat off? I've seen that happen too.
No, I mean, even worse, like, for me, because, I think I've talked about it on this show, or at least this Life in Tech. I mean, I conceal carry all the time. How am I getting to that with a big, bulky coat on? Right. So the only time I'm wearing it is when I'm like at my house to shovel snow. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I only have to walk to the garage if I needed to, and no one's coming. You're not coming to someone's home here in Indiana. There's too many people that have, ways of protecting their homes here in Indiana. It's not happening.
Right.
You don't get too many home break-ins, even in the more affluent areas, for a reason.
Right. No, and that's kind of nice here, man. On the windy days, I have like a really thin Columbia windbreaker. It's like a rain jacket. So I wear that if it's raining or not, but it's just a shell. There's no liner to it. Yeah. And so I wear like a little 3/4 or a quarter zip up, or, I have a Columbia zip up. Simple layer. Warm enough, dude. Get on with it. And you know what? So what? I'm cold. I'm only cold for like a minute. Like, Dude, I've been colder for longer. It's okay.
Well, today, like right now, I think it's 5 degrees.
Yeah. See, it doesn't get that cold here, man.
Hmm.
It'll get down into the 20s or high teens once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while, right? Yeah.
Once in a while. But not like Northeast Ohio or where you're at.
Well, right. I mean, where I'm at's not that far away from Ohio. It's about, an hour from Ohio, right? It's a different kind of cold.
Yeah, it is, man.
But I refuse to let it defeat me.
Well, right, because it goes back to doubt, right?
Hmm?
Like I think about it some mornings, like, oh man, and it's cold out or whatever, and it's little stupid things, and I just realized, well, come on, man, my ancestors were way colder, and they didn't have a car to get into that heated itself up.
Well, I mean, were they? I mean, they didn't have all this climate change going on.
I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but at least my ancestors lived high up in the mountains, and it got pretty fucking cold.
Yeah,
And
but
so
wasn't that was like in an alternative universe in like Tolkien's world?
No, man, like in the fucking Alps, dude.
What?
And so I'm sure they
Whatever you want to say. I mean, wherever you dwarves lived, I don't know.
And I'm sure, man, they found a cave and killed some bears and made some skins, and they figured it out, man.
I mean, what else are you gonna do? I mean,
well, you can do that, or you can lay down and die.
Well, I mean, that's literally kind of the aspect of, all right, I got to go up against a saber-toothed tiger. I can't do this one-on-one. It's like that thing's got 4 claws and a bunch of teeth. I've got like 2 hands that aren't going to do any damage. A spear, I better be great with that spear. I might want to go get a couple of friends. All right. Yeah. Same thing with that bear. And we can kind of go with that bear. We can go, look, if we kill this bear, if there's 4 of us, it's probably enough skin for us to make 4 coats.
Right. And eat
4
winter.
Right. And 4 hats.
And maybe some boots.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we're going to stay warm. We kill a couple of bears. Well, then we might barter for some other stuff.
Yeah. We can keep the neighbors from invading and taking our women.
Whatever it is that we want to barter for.
Right. Right. Amazing how that works, dude. You figure it out. And so that's kind of how I look at it. Some of these little things like, well, okay, maybe being a little uncomfortable isn't all that bad once in a while.
Well, I mean, I would go so far as to say that I enjoy the comfort of being uncomfortable, maybe too much.
Well, like you were saying with Floyd Mayweather and Father Time, I'm sure at some point, man, it's probably inevitable. At some point, we'll take on a challenge, and yeah, we won't win. And I don't know that I'll stop. Maybe I got to lose 5 times in a row. I don't know what the magic number is before I realize, well, maybe it's time to retire and go do something else. But until then, man, I'm perfectly comfortable not always succeeding 100%. It's not required. I don't really ever think about it. I don't know if you do. I don't really ever think about the outcome. I like the act of the engagement itself. That's what excites me.
Yeah, that's actually spot on for me. It's the win or the loss. I mean, all right, I definitely like winning.
Oh yeah, it's way more fun.
And I remember a time when my grandmother was still alive, and my ex-wife said, "I don't understand it. Dan even wins at Monopoly." And my grandmother looked her dead in the eye and said, "He just wills it to victory."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, Monopoly, it's chance, right? So, whatever. But the point kind of remains. Like, I don't think about defeat. I don't think about the win. I think about the process and in some cases, the mental sparring that I do with the opponents well before the outcome of the event has concluded.
Yeah.
And I will go so far as to say that's the reason why Conor McGregor lost against Dustin Poirier.
That's a big part of it.
He changed. I mean, one, overall how he fought. That when he came out with that stance, I was kind of going, "What are you doing? You're not a boxer." Like everything he did was trying to set himself up to go fight Manny Pacquiao, and he got tore up. But he changed too many things. All right, I understand why he didn't want to go that route with Cowboy. He wanted to kind of be seen as this good guy. But you know what? That there is, I would much rather have seen Conor fight someone. I want to see him fight Nate Diaz again. I'll be honest. I want him to fight Nate Diaz again. I want to see that fight. Nurmagomedov doesn't really overall interest me. That or Justin Gaethje, because Gaethje will talk trash, and Conor is the second best person on this planet that can talk trash. I'm the first.
Yeah. Well,
he's a mental assassin, and he gets into your head.
Well, it goes to show you, man, that like most engagements, it's complex, and so if you're not paying attention dutifully to the complexity, we've talked about this before. You see this ever since the beginning of the UFC. There's a meta, and there's certain techniques that emerge that dominate, and then people develop a defense or a counter to it, and then that goes away in a new meta. You see this in sports. Different types of plays work for a certain amount of time, and then the sport evolves. This is what we call a meta. And I think all disciplines have that. And I think when you lose the ability to keep in tune with that or align your behavior to it, that's when you end up like that.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I don't know, man. When they were walking out, it reminded me a lot of, think back to when Rich Franklin fought Anderson Silva the first time. And that look on Rich Franklin's face, like, I am fucked and I know it, and I wish I could just go sit down.
Yeah. For Conor, that happened after the third leg kick. He was not expecting any of that, and then you lose all power. When that front leg is gone, you're toast.
Well,
right?
Yeah,
you're toast. But I've told you, I think he shouldn't be fighting at that weight class.
I agree.
I think he is, while he has dynamite in that left hand, it's not to the degree of the top end from where other people are at that 155 weight class. At 145, I honestly think he's unbeatable. I don't think there's any 145er that's today on the roster that beats Conor McGregor. I just don't think it. 155, and I salute Conor for going, hey, I want to fight where there's the competition. So now what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for the competition, or are you fighting for your legacy?
Right. And that's not always an easy choice.
It's not. It's not. I commend, like, look, even if he never wins another fight, he has got so many businesses that he has now started that are successful, that are profitable. His great grandchildren will never have to work if that would be Conor's wish.
Sure.
He's done that well.
Yeah.
So,
and kudos to him. It's just, because of the size differential that doesn't exist at 155, he's not taller and longer, which he is for, I don't know, like you said, of any 145er that comes close to his frame size.
He's huge at 145. Yeah. He's huge.
Yeah.
Dude, I would not want to have ever fought him at 145 because he walks around at 180.
Mm-hmm.
Easily, he walks around at 180.
Well, and he has an odd frame even at the higher weight class. It's just other people are close enough, or in some cases bigger, that it neutralizes some of that. And that leg kick meta that has developed over the last year is particularly nasty, man. The way that compresses the nerve.
Oh, because they're going to the calf instead of the thigh. right? Going to that one, it's safer. The probability that you hit that shin bone when going for the calf, because now when they're raising it up, you're likely to hit the ankle or something like that, and you're not going to hurt yourself. When you were going for that thigh and they raise it up and you hit that shin bone, Anderson Silva happens, right?
Yeah.
You break your leg.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's really interesting how it works, but that's what happens when you don't fight for a year and you're not paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those things where, I really enjoy Conor's story. When you talk about self-doubt.
Yeah.
He was
a plumber.
Yeah. He was a plumber. He meets Dee, I think they're married now, didn't they? I think they just recently got married.
I don't know if they're married yet, but they definitely got engaged recently.
Yeah. Something along those lines. And he talks like, all right, like this is the only person that truly believed in me, and this is why I did this. I definitely like, so people can say whatever they want about Conor McGregor. In defeat, he is the humblest person. And he says, I lost. I did things wrong. This was on me. Like that, from a leadership perspective, that's extremely important. He does not put blame on his team. He does not put blame on his coaches. He's like, this was me. Hats off to pick the person's name, which is only 3 people that have beaten him in the UFC. Dustin Poirier, who is no slouch. Nurmagomedov, who I don't agree with, but some people think he's the best of all time. I honestly don't put Nurmagomedov even in my top 5. I think he's a wrestler. He gets you to the ground. Great, but I don't feel like he's top 5. He's not even, he might be he's top 10, but he's not top 5.
I would agree.
I don't think he does that for me. To me, still at this time, well, let's go back to Conor McGregor. The fact that he tells everyone, even people he despises, you won, you're the better person tonight. I'm going to learn from this. I'll be back. Right? I mean, you're not going to have the greats in mixed martial arts win every fight.
No.
Nurmagomedov took, in my opinion, he never chose to fight when there was an adverse condition that affected him pre-fight. He would pull out. Nope, I'm not fighting. I'm not 100%. I'm not fighting. I honestly, that's not the kind of fighter I want to be around, because you're going, unless the conditions are perfect, I'm not going to go do something. And, well, that tells me you don't have the warrior spirit. It's like, all right, I'm only going to go out and surf waves when the conditions are perfect. Right. I'm only going to go fishing when there are no waves. Pick your, I only want to go to a company that has no problems, that I can go there and coast. Like that. Yeah. That's literally how I feel about Nurmagomedov. He only wants the perfect conditions.
To connect it back to what we've been talking about as we're wrapping this up is, I'll only engage when I have no self-doubt.
It's dangerous.
It's paralyzing. You can't build an empire that way.
So how many UFC fighters can you think of that have won fights in 3 divisions or more?
Three or more?
Yeah, 3 or more.
Man, I'm going to say 2, but that's tenuous because I don't remember how many divisions Randy Couture won in. I know it was 2.
I think he only fought in 2 divisions. Yeah. Heavyweight and light heavyweight.
Yeah. I was trying to imagine if he did whatever the weight below that is. I always
forget. So I'll answer first what I believe, because I was thinking about this. As far as I can remember, there's 3 people who have won in 3 different weight divisions: Conor McGregor, Cowboy Cerrone, Nate Diaz. Maybe BJ Penn did. I can't remember, but
I know he did 2, but I don't know that he did 3. You're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
That's what I remember. Because I can't so BJ Penn fought at at 145 and 155. I don't think he fought down at the 135, and I don't think he fought at 170 and 1, but I could be wrong.
He might have done 170 because when he fought Matt Hughes.
Yeah, but I thought, well, actually, yeah. So that it would have he might have also won in 3 weight divisions.
Definitely 2. It might be 3. We'd have to double check that, or somebody can fact check it. But yeah, that's a really short list given how many fighters there've been. I mean, that's a really short list. And only one person out of that group has held titles consecutively in 2 different ones, and that's Connor.
Yeah, no one else has. Daniel Cormier
not held them consecutively. No, or I should say concurrent.
Right. Daniel Cormier didn't.
Nope.
I mean, he won 2, but he wasn't able to. I mean,
Randy Couture won 2, but he didn't win them concurrent.
So I mean, here's a big thing. All right. So in my opinion, Daniel Cormier never won. He was never the light heavyweight champ.
I would agree with that. He didn't beat the champ. In fact, he lost twice to that person. Like him or hate him, it doesn't matter. The facts are the facts. He got beat twice.
So with this, here's who I think are my top 5. I think I put John Jones 1. Number 2, I put Anderson Silva. Number 3, I put Royce Gracie. Number 4, I put GSP. And I think I do actually think I put, as of today, number 5, Conor McGregor.
I think I'd put GSP much higher, personally.
I mean, so where do you put GSP? Do you put him number 3, number 2, number 1? I mean,
I'm debating on whether he's 1 or 2. Okay. And number 1, it's either him or John Jones, because nobody's dominated their division the way those guys have. And I'm not factoring in anything other than their performance.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. I don't necessarily disagree. I just kind of go when I look at, from my mind, when Anderson Silva came into the UFC, he didn't lose until he lost, and then he basically was done. Like he hit it at such a high level, and then went down, and done. And the reason why I put him ahead of GSP is because he did go up to light heavyweight and beat top-notch people at light heavyweight
multiple times.
Right?
Yeah.
GSP didn't do that while he was on top. Like he wasn't pushing himself.
Safer. He definitely played it safer. See,
and that's why I put him down a little bit, because of that.
Yeah, there's an argument, and I think maybe we can agree on what makes John Jones number 1 is he's never lost. The only loss he had was a disqualification, which everybody pretty much universally agrees was bullshit.
It was. Like I honest, and so what will solidify in my mind how he does in heavyweight, there has not been, as far as I can remember, any person that started in light heavyweight and then gone up to win. Cormier started at heavyweight, went down, and then went back up. But
I think the only person that did it was Randy Couture. But that was at a different time, man.
But he won the heavyweight, went down, won the light heavyweight, and then he went back up and won the heavyweight again.
Yeah.
I mean, Randy Couture is also. I mean, come on, this guy is. Yeah, there's a reason why they call him natural.
Yeah, it was a different time too. To be fair, yeah, man, I think you got to put John Jones first. I really do.
I mean, I could see an argument for, like, to me, I see an argument for John Jones, Anderson Silva, GSP. Any one of those could be number 1.
They're top 3 for sure.
Yeah, then it's but I happen to put, I don't know. I do have a love for what Royce Gracie did. Like if it wasn't for him,
sure,
we may not have a UFC, right?
Yeah, that's for him and his family. Yeah. Well, and see, and a lot of people don't realize this or forget. They picked him because he was the worst out of the family. They picked him because he was the worst to prove a point, and that's undisputable fact.
Yeah.
Like everybody else was like, "Well, I guess this is too easy. We got to pick the worst person."
Well, I mean, think about it. So here in the United States, and anyone can fact check this. They could do whatever. There's no Royce Gracie school of BJJ. When people talk about teachers, Royce is not there.
No.
It's predominantly like Renzo. Who's the other Gracie?
Well, there's a group of them. There's Hoyler and
yeah. But Royce is not in there from a teacher perspective.
No. Yeah, I probably at the end of it, it's for me more debatable as to whether he's fifth and Connor's fourth or how that works out. But I think the top three, it has to be those three guys because nobody else dominated the way they did. I mean, you could make a case for Matt Hughes in there somewhere, but
I used to think
top
so.
10, sure, not top
yeah,
5.
I think he's top 10. And I think here's the thing. And I don't think Conor McGregor should have gone to 155 when he did. He should have stayed down at 145 for a while. But who am I to argue? The dude's got, $200+ million in the bank.
Yeah, right. See, this is the other thing. To me, if you want to remain the champion, whatever it is you're doing, you can't have any distractions. And so I think changing weight classes is what really set that up for to be a disservice. I admire the taking on the challenge, but ultimately that spun into all these other things. And dude, you get spread too thin. You can't maintain.
It wasn't just that he did multiple weight classes. Then he went and fought Floyd Mayweather.
And then he started the liquor business and the suit business and this business and more power to you, man. I mean, I have to think back. And if you look at people that started to spawn off other income verticals, it's too distracting.
100%. Did you watch his documentary?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is his knowledge of the fight game is superior to anyone else that I've ever heard talk about it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And that's where I go. I wonder if his motivation was more for the money rather than the legacy, rather than doing this for the love of the sport.
Yeah.
And I got to say that if he had stayed at 145, could he have been the next Jose Aldo? Like Jose Aldo didn't lose for 10 years.
He was the first and only champ until Conor beat him. I mean, for that weight division.
Right. And Conor said exactly in that documentary, he told Dana White, this is what's going to happen. He's going to come in with that 1-2. I'm going to step back and I'm going to hit him with the left hook.
Yeah.
And he's going to go out. That's exactly what happened.
I think if Conor would have stayed there, this conversation that we're having that everybody has would have been, is Conor number one or is GSP number one? And so here's the difference, right? This is what happens, and people misunderstand it if you're not focused and disciplined with doubt. The only difference, how do you say this the right way? You can tell the character of a person when they get money because now they can fuel their sins, right? And so if you look at a character like GSP, who I don't know has as much money, but the dude ain't poor by any stretch of the imagination. He never got corrupted. And so he never had to entertain all these distractions. Conor got corrupted by it, clearly. I mean, I don't know if there's any argument about that. I don't think he's less of a person for it. I just think there's a stark difference between those two. GSP's integrated with his shadow, if you want to put it back in that Jungian term. Connor wasn't. And when he got money to fuel those sins, it came out. And I think ultimately that's what distracted him. That's my armchair folk analysis of the situation.
I
see the same thing with John Jones.
Yeah, I think similar, except that I think Connor, I honestly don't think the money has changed him. I don't think it has in any way. It's allowed him to be able to be exactly who he is and afford the repercussions of it. Like I think, I mean, here's the thing. The whole thing with Nurmagomedov doesn't happen if Nurmagomedov and his crew don't surround Artem by himself and basically, jump him. If that never happens, Connor doesn't get on a plane, go to Madison Square Garden with all of his people and go, like, because you don't do that. I mean, look, if I remember correctly, he was basically, also like, he may have been a plumber, but he was also kind of involved in some other extracurricular activities for some families in that particular part of the world. At least so the news reports, right?
Yeah.
You don't do that, right? I mean, that's where he can't. People talk like he grew up on those streets. That you don't do those kind of things without there being repercussions. Now, I'm kind of going, where's Audie at that particular time as manager going, Connor, what are you doing? Right? That's what his job is. I mean, when you look at the actual documentary, Audie is telling him those kind of things all the time. No, you don't want to do this. We got to do this. This is what we got to do. Like, where was he during that? Like, how does he not know Connor's getting on a plane and going to Madison Square Garden? Right. And if he knows it, how come he's not calling Dana White and going, do not let this guy in? I mean, that's his job, is to protect them. That's what the manager's job is, to protect their people, protect their fighters.
Right. I mean, how does John Jones not hire a driver? Like, what are you doing, man? But that's what I mean, right? Without money, that wouldn't be possible. And listen, man, I'm not speaking ill of having money. Having money is very valuable for a lot of different reasons. It's just sometimes the true person comes out because now you can actually afford it, and however way you want to, I think, contextualize it, you can afford that type of activity.
So check this out. And not that it's, hundreds of millions of dollars like Conor McGregor. But when you and I first met to today, I make 3 times what I made then. Mm-hmm. How, if at all, has my personality changed?
I mean, are you asking me?
Yeah.
I actually think you're way better, to be honest with you. I mean, you're not that you were ever displeasurable to be around, but I think you actually have improved as a human being, not gotten worse, right? If that's what you're asking me.
Well, I mean, it was an open question, right? And the reason for the question is, and the answer is, money does not result in many cases as people being the worst forms of themselves. In many times, it results in people being the best versions of themselves. They're able to be more of that, and there are always there's going to be the cases for either side, and I get that. But I think if you are the type of individual that is not looking to make excuses, that you're accountable to yourself, that you are acting in a manner that is consistent with ensuring that you are responsible for your future self, regardless of how much money you make, you will almost certainly make the same decisions as if you were poor or rich and everything in between.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
your goal is not money. Your goal is not happiness. Your goal is fulfillment.
Right. Well said. I totally agree. I just think those two are textbook examples of what happens when you have those types of personalities to begin with, and then you actually get the means to enact it. That's all my point is.
And it's a very valuable point because there are many. I mean, look, Mike Tyson's talked about this quite a bit. He's been very open. When he had all that money, he's like, I was a maniac.
Yeah.
He talked about this one story. I think it was when he said when he was married to Robin Givens. They went through McDonald's drive-thru or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard this one. Yeah.
Right. And he wrecked into some guy's car because he was drunk. And basically he said, all right, look, take my car. And let this all go away. And then like the next day, he's like, hey, I want my car back. The guy's like, no. So Mike Tyson goes to his boss, the CEO. It's like, he's got my car. And basically he got the guy fired.
Yeah.
Because it was something along those lines. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Mike's like, I was crazy. He's like, I had a tiger. He's like, who would give me a tiger?
Well, see, and the thing too is we ought to be careful in some way, at least contextually judging these behaviors. I don't think anybody's beyond redemption, barring some exceptional cases, right? And everybody deserves their chance at redemption. So
100%.
I don't think Connor or John or anybody like that is irredeemable just because of something they've done. I think you should face the consequences of your behaviors, even if it's a situational effect rather than a dispositional effect. Like I've said before in this show and this Life and Tech, it's what I really detest about cancel culture. I mean, it's not by definition very Christian.
That's a great point. Because you and I have had, I don't think on any of the shows, we've had our theological debates, in terms of how things are and why you believe what you believe and why I believe what I believe. And, that, which is what's funny. And for those that don't know, I constantly, I put everyone into a particular bucket and, this started at Capitol. And I'm like, hey, Jason's my only pagan friend. And that way I can say I've got one.
Hey man, it's better to be something than be nothing.
Yeah. But, we've had those things, which just goes to show like many may not realize there's been plenty of things that philosophically and things of nature that, that you and I don't agree with, but there are also so many other things that we do, right? It's that, I mean, I don't even think it's as high as 5% of the things that we disagree on. Sometimes there's slight nuances, but I wouldn't even say for the course of, the course of how we overall believe, I wouldn't even say it's 5%. But in some cases, 5% is enough to go to war over.
Well, and I was just going to say, in fact, the only thing I can ever think back to the time where we actually didn't talk to each other for a little bit was when in the beginning, we were actually talking past each other about two different things and we didn't realize it.
Yeah.
That was the only time.
Yeah. And, and even still, here we are.
Yeah. That's the first time I've thought about that. Since then.
Think about it. It'll be this August, 11 years.
Yeah. We should almost have an anniversary.
Except I don't know what day it was that we started.
Yeah, I don't either, man. I want to say it was the 14th or the 15th. I could go back to my files and look, but
I don't fucking keep those files.
Well, I mean, I do because I just have records of things, but
if there's records, then people can go back and find them.
Oh man, I have all the chat logs. What are you talking about? No, I don't. I have syllabi because I knew I was going to be an academic, so I kept syllabi.
Yeah. I honestly do not. It's highly improbable that I have anything from our time in the doctoral program other than my dissertation, which I do have.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the only reason I have any of that, and I don't have anything from before that, is because at that point I knew I was going to be a full-time academic. It just was.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were very upfront. Like that was your dream. That was your dream for a while. That's what you wanted to do.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I kept any of it.
So check this out, because I know we're getting close to your bedtime. So I do an Ask Me Anything Monday, and it just so happens to be, since I don't really pay attention to the calendar, I scheduled my first 2 Ask Me Anything Mondays at my employer on 2 Monday holidays. So my first 2 Ask Me Anything Mondays, except it's a Tuesday, happened. And so this past time, I'm like, all right, hey, look, ask me anything, whatever you want. And someone said, well, because I'm going on like, hey, if you're buying an iPhone, remember, Apple's a toy and Android's for work. And so it's like, well, the previous CIO said Apple was a far superior security model, and I said, well, that's the really lazy way to say it. Basically, what he was saying in that is that Apple for the general population has a pretty good security model. Because it doesn't allow you to do anything. It keeps you inside of a framework and allows you no freedom to do anything that might require additional thought. Android, however, allows you to do so many other things, and you can still remain secure. And here's the biggest problem with a generic smartphone, specifically Apple, because Apple provides you no means to protect against a baseband attack or a SIM card attack. Android does, and I've done it twice. So, as a matter of fact, we did it. I said there's a reason why an Apple iOS device was not used in the president's community of interest, because Apple will not, at least, I mean, maybe they are today. I could be very well wrong. I've not in that space for some time now, but in 2010, they did not, and they had not, at least as far as I know, through 2020, allowed an Apple device. It was an Android device, because we can do some things there. But I left it with, that was probably the wrong question to ask me, because it just so happens to be what my dissertation was focused on. So, like, how much you want to get out? Like, how much you want to go down the aspect of the iOS keychain, the sandboxing? Yeah, it's like Apple's puts a lot of things in there, but they control the environment. Android, control is still there, but you can do so many other things if you understand how it works. And you can create a baseband firewall.
Right.
There's a reason why I still to this day use an Android device. I'm not using an Apple device. Not for my phone. I mean, I'm on a Mac. And I got to tell you right now, Apple, your sidecar, I still don't know how it's working right now with this iPad that I'm using today, because I spent almost all day off and on going, does this work? Does this work? Like, I did everything. All of a sudden, it just started working. I'm like, I still right now do not know how it's working. I have no idea, because I updated everything first, because that's your first thing. Actually, the first thing, I rebooted both devices. I logged out of my Apple account on both devices. I relogged back in. I rebooted again. I made sure I could properly share. None of that worked. And then all of a sudden, oh, it worked. I'm like,
yeah.
I honestly, I don't know. And that actually bothers me more, because I don't know the reason why it's working right now. Anyway, but we had that Ask Me Anything, and I was like, I went into probably too much detail. And they're like, well, why did the other CIO say that? I'm like, well, because he's lazy.
No.
If your simple answer is Apple is more secure than Android, I'm going to be, why do you think so? And against what type of attacks?
Yeah, right.
We could have this debate all day long, because those the attack surface, it's no different. It's zero difference, in my opinion. If you think the Apple Store is more secure than Google Play, I don't think so. just because, and this is what everyone always goes, and they it's no different than any other misinformation campaigns that are out there. This happened while we were at Silent Circle. Kaspersky going, oh, well, the black phone is still susceptible to Android malware. And my first response was, how would you know? Because they can't detect any of it. But really, it came down to the amount of Android malware that happens to be in Google Play at any given time is well less than 1%. Well less. Where you get Android malware is when you enable third-party app stores. So you want to prevent, don't enable third-party app stores. It's that simple. For an enterprise, it's even simpler. Don't check the box that says enable third-party app stores. That's it.
Right. Yeah. A surprise. Google does an actual pretty good job.
They do. And people that don't, I mean, they can think whatever they want. There's a reason why Google bought VirusTotal.
Yeah. Hey, look, man. And if you have iOS and you want to jailbreak it, have at it. I wouldn't do it.
Well, so great point. You jailbreak your iPhone, I'm going to go on record. If you're putting anything of significance on that phone, you're a moron.
Pretty much.
You are not, as an individual, capable of all the protections Apple or Google is able to put on their phones. That's, so while I use a custom ROM, I know where my custom ROM comes from. Like, I'm literally using a company that I trust. Like, it's a legit company. It's not, it's not CyanogenMod, right?
Yeah, right.
Actually, I'm not even sure if Cyanogen even exists still today, to be honest.
No, not the way it did. Like when it first came out on OnePlus, they pretty much killed that project.
Yeah, so I'm actually using a trusted company that's Canadian. I don't want to announce their names because, well, they haven't sponsored my show yet. So
yeah, send me a T-shirt.
I'm going to need more than a T-shirt at this point.
Well, dude, I'm cheap now.
Well. So it was an interesting because they were like, I mean, they wanted to go into some details. And like, well, what about this? And I'm like, no, false.
Yeah.
Like, you're asking the wrong cat, dude. Like, like I am the only person in the company that uses Android. I said, so that should tell you something, right? I'm responsible for all of technology, and I'm the only person using an Android device. I also was the first person to be using a Chromebook for everything. Why? And I'm going, because they're the most secure. For me and what I'm doing, it's the most secure.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked, like, oh, well, how would you compromise an iOS device? I'm like, I'll go rent a Ukrainian, virtual mobile network operator, and however long it takes me to get an account there. And since I know your phone number, then I can track you anywhere in the world. There's, it just so happens to be that this is not that difficult. Once I have your phone number and I'm there, I can push stuff through the baseband, and the probability that you're on the most up-to-date iOS version is like less. I mean, it's not zero. Like,
right.
I could pretty much, like, I know what my company's is.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that not everyone is up to date on the most recent all the time. So I'm going to get in. It's not that difficult.
Right.
I just got to know your phone number.
Which ain't hard to get, right?
No, I got everyone's. Like, I'm like, it's not that difficult. As a matter, I mean, it's even worse. I mean, people put their. I do not understand why people put their cell phone numbers on any social media site, LinkedIn, Facebook. I don't care if it's your business or not. I mean, it is free for a Google Voice number. Use that and not your cell phone number, and only use that for where your place of business is. it's too easy to find out where you live with your phone number.
Right. Yeah, really the only reason why I even agreed to allow somebody to put a phone in my office is so I can forward all the calls from it to my phone.
Yeah.
And that's the only number I give out.
I mean, everything. I've got several Google Voice numbers for a reason. So I that way, when I have to sign up and someone says, "Oh, I need your cell phone number in order to validate," well, there you go. Here's a Google Voice number.
Yeah, have at it. Last story, and I'm going to run.
All right.
Speaking of cell phone numbers, man, I have a new young TA, and I like her a lot, man. She has a lot of potential. And so because she's free, she actually comes into the class rather than just a lab session. And she makes that mistake, dude. Well, I interrupted her. I had to. Because she started to say, well, and if anybody needs help, my mold numbers. I'm like, no, dude, no. The correct statement is my office hours are this time to that time on these days. Other than that, email me. Don't be giving out your number, dude.
No,
What are you doing, man?
Definitely not a wise thing to do.
No.
I got to go on my last pet peeve then for you.
Hit it.
Which is similar. LinkedIn. The people, I respect hustle. I respect drive. I don't respect laziness. All of those people that are account managers, which is essentially in sales, stop being lazy. When I get those automated responses, all right, so on LinkedIn, I intentionally put my employer as undisclosed. Right? I put it there like that because, well, unfortunately, there are too many people out there in the world that are social justice warriors, and they would rather cause harm and go, I don't like what you said, badger the employers to get rid of someone. And, I do say some things that may be considered somewhat controversial. And here's the thing. If someone goes and get me fired, I'm going to find out who it is. And then there's going to be other bad things that are going to transpire. That's the bottom line. That's what's going to happen. So I put undisclosed. I also purposely put doctor in the beginning because I then know that there's two reasons for both of these two things. One, and you know this, I don't care that anyone calls me doctor. I care that my DSC is after my name when it's in print. That's it. If you're going to introduce me at a conference to speak, then it's doctor. Outside of that, I don't care. And it's only that time as an introduction because it's in an aspect of my specialty. That's it. These account managers, I can tell when they're utilizing automation and being lazy with their CRM tools because it'll say, hey, DR period. Or I've been following you at undisclosed for some time now. And I'm really liking what you're doing over there. When I see those two things, you put no effort into it. Here's the thing. Several that have wind up getting, because I do meet with one new vendor a week. I give them 30 minutes, pitch me whatever. I may have nothing for you, but I at least get to hear you, and maybe there's something in the future. But the ones that I allow are the ones that actually go, hey, I caught your podcast. You were talking about such and such. That this was kind of interesting. What do you think about blah, blah, blah? Right. Okay. And then I respond. There's a couple of dialogue and they're like, look, I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but if you could spare 15 minutes to let me give you a little bit of stuff, if there's not a fit, there's not a fit. Like those are the ones that 100% of the time get a meeting. even sometimes it hasn't been about the podcast. It's just been about something I've posted, something that, like, literally they did their homework. Which, boys and girls, that's the most important thing. Because if your purpose is sales and you're looking to create relationships, then it will result in you making President's Club. If your goal is just to make money and you're going to be coin operated like that, and I know you're coin operated, and look, I'm not the smartest CIO out there. There's plenty of others that are much better than I am. They know it too.
Yeah, right. Right.
Well, my friend, I know you got to wake up early. It's past your bedtime. You've gotten old really quick, dude. I mean, I'm really disappointed.
Really old or just really disciplined?
I think old. I remember when you and I could put down a bottle of scotch together, still show up to work at 8 o'clock in the morning while we wait on Michelle till noon. I'm not sure you could do that anymore.
If I was willing not to publish 20 papers in a semester, but
hey, I don't want to hear excuses.
Well, maybe I'll take a break.
No, we all go through our cycles. We go sleep cycles, whatever you got to do. All right, my friend.
I got your meaning.
Cheers, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, my friend. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.